8 was a former deputy director of the CIA. Wow. His personal account, new. The invitation offered business class travel, and accommodations to the UAE. And they invited guests to bring their spouses. Fannie Willis, like thrilled.
The crazy story about me running a child trafficking operation out of a basement of a pizzeria. Don't laugh.
Yeah, we want to know.
It was a huge story.
The Iranians did it. 3 of them indicted now for hacking the Trump campaign. And this is coming out of the District of Columbia. Bunch of charges. We're going to zoom in on it. We are familiar with election interference, and every year some foreign country is doing it. It's not people like Jocelyn Benson in Michigan, or Jenna Griswold, or Shenna Bellows, or any of the people who are trying to throw Trump off the ballot, or let in millions of illegals, or trying to prosecute their political opponents. No. That's not election interference when the FBI is colluding with Facebook to censor Americans. No, it's when some Iranians are coming in here and hacking foreign campaign. My question is, are we ever going to find these people? Or did they just pick some people that are in Iran somewhere that we'll never find, and really it was some foreign or some actual government agents who were responsible for this? Well, here, it's some Iranians in Iran. Are you going to go in there and capture them and bring them to justice and arraign them? Probably not. But here is what the indictment is. And so the DOJ serves us up a nice little palette here, telling us that, all right, here's the background on the Trump hack. They say beginning in or around January 2020 and continuing through September this month, this year, malicious cyber actors from Iran prepared for and engaged in a wide-ranging hacking campaign that used spear phishing and social engineering techniques to target and compromise the accounts of current and former U.S. government officials, members of the media, non-governmental organizations, individuals with U.S. political campaigns. Now, this is part of Iran's continuing effort to stoke discord, erode confidence in the electoral process, and unlawfully acquire information relating to current and former U.S. officials that could be used to advance their efforts, including to avenge the death of Soleimani that Trump took out at the airport with that missile that time. Now, of particular note, they say, in May of 2024 this year, after several years of focusing on compromising the accounts of government officials and using some of the same hacking infrastructure from earlier in the conspiracy, the conspirators began targeting and successfully gaining unauthorized access to personal accounts belonging to Trump's campaign, including campaign officials. Now, the conspirators used their access to those accounts to steal information, including non-public campaign material. The activity broadened in late June 2024 when the conspirators engaged in a hack and leak operation in which they sought to weaponize campaign material stolen from Trump by leaking the materials to the press in a deliberate effort, in a conspirator's own words, to undermine Trump's campaign. It's the Iranians. Now, the conspirators used sophisticated means to fraudulently access the computers. The conspirators created multiple fraudulent persona email accounts, of fake emails, impersonating other persons or organizations, including current and former government officials. They used their names in the email, and the accounts were actually controlled by the conspirators, right? So they just kind of made fake Gmail accounts or whatever. And they said, "Hi, I'm General Milley." That doesn't look real. Well, it must be him, though. Who else would do that? These persona accounts were designed to trick recipients from the persona accounts into believing that they were real. In fact, the persona accounts were used to send spear phishing emails, that is, emails designed to further deceive a victim, to click a link, take them to a bad website, download something, compromise the computer. After obtaining unauthorized access to victim computers and accounts, they would then steal data from those accounts. Now, they obtained initial unauthorized access to protect the computers through US wires using a variety of tools. And so for our IT folks out there, they use static IP addresses provided by the Raspina networks, and they use VPNs to obscure their true location. They created persona accounts. They created spoofed login pages. They sent emails using compromised accounts, social engineering, malware, all sorts of stuff. Long-term persistent access to the computers. So then on April 15, 2019, the US designated the IRGC as a foreign terrorist organization. Now, to date, they continue to have that designation. Amongst its activities hostile to the United States is they actively targeted nationals of the United States and allies living in countries around the world for kidnapping, to repress people, and to take vengeance for the death of Soleimani. Now, during all times, Jalili was one of these people indicted, whose last known residence is in Iran. The following was a passport ID photo of this guy. All right, so we'll see if he ever shows up in American courts ever. He was a skilled computer hacker. He identified himself as a master of IT. He worked for this company since 2005, had a business relationship, and was there. Did a bunch of covert hacking and more. Now, this is apparently where the office was, in and around this Tehran office in Iran. Image 3 was an open source photograph, so I guess they found a Google Maps Maps photo or something over there. Iran Maps. Okay. Like, he's right in there. This bad guy. He's in there. Let's go get him. Now, the nameplate above the door in image 3 in Farsi matches the name. That's the company in Farsi. See it right there? That's it. They got him. Busted. Now, during all times, oh, this is another one. So, Ag Hamiri was a citizen of Iran, also less known residence, Iran. Here's a photograph of hacker number 2. He's also a graduate. He's a skilled computer hacking operator. During all times, he was a citizen of Iran, last known residence in Iran. Here's this guy too. So he was a skilled computer hacker in Iran since at least 2012, according to a resume. He held a bachelor's degree. He created phishing attack system. He worked on a number of projects. He had experience in designing and executing a lot of software projects. All right. Now, at all times, they are known foreign nationals, and none of the conspirators were known to ever have resided in the United States. Oh, great. So it's a bunch of 3 random people who we're never going to see, ever. So Raspina Networks and FDI were telecommunications and internet providers based in Iran. Long contractual network. They found the IP address. They backtraced it into the tubes. On or about December 19th, the conspirators fraudulently opened an account in the name of an Israeli politician based in Tel Aviv. Okay, so they created a fake Israeli politician, and they're like, yeah, let's just pretend to be an Israeli, and then they'll give us whatever we want, because we'll just send an email to any politician in America, and they'll just say, oh, sure, what do you need? Would you like my credit card account? Here you go. And here's my bank account. Come on in. Between July 2021 and May 2022, the conspirators used this account to knowingly falsely register at least 4 domains, which they used to continue their hacking. Now, the conspirators' hacking activity from at least January 2020 to May 2024 targeted and attempted to compromise the personal email accounts of dozens of current or former prominent public officials, deputies, senior national council officials, and ambassadors. See, I told you. They're like, oh crap, this is from Tel Aviv. Drop everything. What do they need? These officials held or currently hold positions at the US DOJ, Department of Defense, State Department, U.S. Agency for International Development, NSA, they got the NSA, the CIA, the White House, National Security Council, Senate, U.S. House of Representatives. Oh, they got them all. During this period, the conspirators' hacking activity also targeted and tried to compromise without indications of success former officials of the UN, Afghanistan, foreign governments' intelligence services, 3 members of the media, national security correspondent, author, columnist for a major U.S. newspaper, 5 employees of NGOs, everybody, man. They were just going hog wild. Now, in addition to the attempted compromises, so they're just sending emails. They're like, hi, I'm Mr. Netanyahu. Hello, what's up? I'm from Israel. Need your help? Do you want to meet? Whatever. Like blasting emails to everybody. In addition to the attempted compromises between in or around July 21st, 2021 to May 2024, the conspirators' targeting efforts led to successful compromises of numerous persons and entities, including but not limited to a bunch of people listed below. So let's see here. U.S. victim 1 was a former senior government employee at the Department of State who was responsible for Middle East policy and involved in negotiating diplomatic efforts, including the Abraham Accords. 2 of the U.S. victim 1's personal email accounts were successfully compromised. Wild. United Arab Emirates victim 2 also promoted security there. Victim 3 was a U.S.-based author of at least 2 books about Iran. U.S. victim 3's personal email account was nabbed. U.S. victim 4 was a journalist and a fellow at a Washington, D.C.-based think tank and a fellow at United States Institutes of Peace. Personal email account compromised there. 5 was a Homeland Security advisor to a former U.S. president. Whoa! U.S. 5 victims' personal email was successfully compromised by the conspirators. Just 3 random Iranian dudes. Interesting. U.S. victim 6 was a former senior official at the CIA. His work email was compromised. Woo. Victim 7 was a former U.S. ambassador to Israel and a fellow in D.C. in a base think tank who advises U.S. policymakers on foreign policy in the Middle East. Victim 7's personal email account was successfully compromised by the conspirators. 8 was a former deputy director of the CIA. Wow. His personal account nuked. U.S. victim 9, human rights advocate, co-founder and research director from an Iranian human rights organization. His personal account nuked as well. Wild. Now, between in or around May 2024 and through at least September 2024, their targeting efforts led to the attempted compromises and successful compromises of the following individuals associated with Trump. Victim 10 was a former informal political consultant to the presidential candidate. 2 of Victim 10's personal email accounts were successfully compromised by the conspirators. And we don't know exactly who that is. There's speculation about it, but we don't need to dig into that. Now, U.S. Victim 11 was an official for the campaign. Victim 11 personal email accounts similarly compromised. Victim 12 was an attorney representing the candidate. And of course, we know there's a JD Vance dossier that's making its way around the interwebs. People have been banned on X for sharing that. Now, attempted U.S. victim 13 was an official for Trump's campaign. 14 was a former U.S. Department of State official who was also an advisor to a presidential campaign that was suspended prior to May 2024. So who could that be? Nikki Haley person, right? As a result of the compromise of U.S. victim 11 account, the conspirators gained access to communications between these two people. So probably a Nikki Haley person, right? That was May-ish. She dropped out. Okay, so they got charged multiple counts. So these 3 Iranian dudes who we'll never hear from, who are just gone in the wind, apparently hacked half the government. So beginning in or around January 2020, they did hacking. They intentionally accessed a computer, knowingly defrauding, accessing protected computers. They transferred information by using those computers. They did it with the intent to defraud. They executed a scheme by false and fraudulent pretenses. They did this over international wire, and wire fraud is another crime. Also, the conspiracy was conducted to gain access to these machines. Why? To steal victims' data, to disrupt U.S. foreign policy, to stoke discord, to steal personal and private information, to go after Trump, undermine presidential campaign one Trump. And they did it by using networks, IP addresses, VPNs. They created fake personas. They emailed fraudulent recovery codes. They used social engineering to obtain victims' login information and multi-factor recovery codes. Don't share the code. Don't share it. Using malware and command and control. These techniques included knowingly and falsely registering internet domains, and the conspirators used stolen credentials to do this too. Now, as part of the conspiracy, the conspirators used internet-connected computers and servers in order to do all this. The computer servers also served as hot points between computers, and they had dedicated IPs, static IPs, VPNs, VPSs, email accounts, and more. As part of the conspiracy, they used servers, domains, they exploited the vulnerabilities, they gained their trust, they socially engineered a bunch of stuff, and the conspirators here later, after establishing their unauthorized access to the victim computers, they made an effort to conceal their presence. During their persistent access, when they had long-term access to these machines, they stole data and campaign material. Later, they distributed the campaign materials to members of the media and individuals that the conspirators believed were associated with Kamala's campaign. They stole it and gave it to Kamala in an effort to stoke discord and erode confidence in the electoral process. The Iranians didn't need to do that, okay? Our own government did that last time, as well as undermined Trump in advance of 2024. Now, here are the overt acts. They used a commercial VPN to create Persona Account 1 with a US-based email provider, and they made this in the name of a spouse of a sitting US Supreme Court justice. Amazing. Is it Ginny? It's probably Ginny Thomas, isn't it? I mean, who else? So they say, hey, it's Ginny Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife. What's up? She's firing off emails to everybody. Now, on or about July 7th, the conspirators knowingly and falsely registered the domain mailerdamon.online with provider 1, and they used that domain for malicious purposes. Now, on or about November 9th, 2021, so a few years ago, they knowingly falsely registered mailerdamon.live with provider 1, and they used that for malicious purposes. Then they knowingly and falsely registered the domain tinyurl.inc with provider 1 and put a bunch of fake emails to there. Now here, the conspirators used the infrastructure of the Iranians to create a Persona email account with a US email-based name of an employee with a Washington-based think tank called Persona Account 2, another fake person. They set Persona Account 2 as a recovery account in case the first account goes bad. Then they used Persona Account to email victim 1 and to trick victim 1 to click a spoofed website. And I don't know what this Persona account was. Like, who is this person? So it's like another, I don't know, Washington-based think tank Persona Account 2, the name of an employee there at some think tank who's, pick someone. So then they email victim 1, hey, I work at this think tank. Can you please click on this? They use that website to obtain a means of authentication to the victim email account so they could obtain persistent access without alerting that. It's like, hey, fill out a form. What's the name of your dog or something? Then it gave them travel, lodging, and other information about this person who was a senior U.S. Department of State official at the time of Soleimani's death and therefore of interest to the Iranians. That's pretty freaky right there, right? Now, this is just some random person. Looks like it might even be, actually, it was a senior U.S. Department State official at the time. So I retract that. And they were just following this person around, right? If it is the Iranians, they're like following this person around, and this guy made the decision to take out Soleimani or was in on that. And that's all it takes is a bad email. He clicks a link and they got access to everything. Scary. Now, on or about April 30th, the conspirators used a commercial VPN to create a Persona account, Persona 3, with a US-based email provider. Persona 3 was also accessed from the same computer as Persona 1. Then Jalili logged into Persona account 3 from a different commercial VPN. And it's pretty interesting. They're like, these guys are creating all these fake personas and they would be logging in with like their real name. They're like, oh yeah, let me just log in here. Here's my Iranian social security number too. You want this too? Here's my home home address to. Like these mega super hackers are all like logging in. He's like, would you like to log in with Google? It's like, yeah, sure, my personal Google. Yeah, authenticate that. Would you like to connect your Facebook account? Yeah, sure, here's a picture. It's amazing. Super sophisticated hackers are just like, yeah, that's my address. They're hacking with their Facebook profiles. Personal. On or about May 9th, Balagi arrived in the Malakalu office, and then the third hacker arrived. And then they logged in to victim 3's personal email account, and they sent a test email. They said, hi for test. They're sending emails. Then, while logged into that persona account 3, acknowledged, yeah, I got it. Email's working. Sent from the US victim 3's compromised account by saying, hey, yeah, we've got access. We can send emails from this person's account. Then they falsely registered the domain mailerdamon.me with provider 1. On or about June 18th, the conspirators used other persona account 4, to email victim 1. The conspirators fraudulently claimed to be the CEO of a fake nonprofit that they set up called Democracy in the Middle East. They're like, God, that sounds great. We'd love democracy in the Middle East. And they sent an email that contained an embedded link that purported to be an invitation for victim 1 to come to a conference in Dubai. Why don't you come visit? It's going to be great. You're going to love it here. The embedded link was malicious. Oh no. Directed the user to a website on domain mailerdamon.me, which was used to harvest their credentials. The website initiated a splash page that spoofed a US service provider's login page, which called for the victim to enter their login credentials to gain access to the invitation. Oh my gosh. It's like, we'd like to invite you to like the CIA event in Dubai. Like, oh great, I love the CIA event in Dubai. Okay, just go here, make sure you log in with your CIA account, and then you'll get access to the invitation. She's like, great, perfect, I love that. Here's my CIA login. After the entry of any login credentials, whether accurate or not, the website posted a PDF invitation to the fake conference, right? It's just a fake page. Persona account number 4 was accessed from the same computer as persona number 1. Enters it in. Oh, here's my credentials. Like the oldest trick in the book, right? Now, on or about, they were doing this back in the AOL instant messaging days, for crying out loud. Remember that? I mean, I was on AIM with my friends. I mean, that link looks a little bit weird. The conspirators used IRGC infrastructure to create a US-based domain mimicking the name of the think tank based in DC. 3 persona email accounts in the names of the think tank employees, including persona account 5 and persona account 6. Starting about August 2nd, 2022, conspirators used, again, the Iranian infrastructure to send test spear phishing emails from persona account 5 to persona account 3. So they're emailing themselves. According to a service provider, persona account 3 was the identified recovery email for 4. They're all connected. All right. Then they logged into victim 1's email. So they go back into her email or his. Among the items that were in this email was a copy of the victim's passport. Now, between August 4th and 9th of 2022, they used a bunch of personas, persona account 5, 6, and the account in the name of a person working for another victim to email another victim and other targeted persons, right? So now they're like chaining them together. So they got like 3 fake personas, and they actually have a real email. They like fake emails and a real email. The email contained another invitation. The invitation offered business class travel, and accommodations to the UAE. And they invited guests to bring their spouses. Fannie Willis like thrilled. So is Mayor Adams. He's like, business class? What? Between or on or about August 4th to August 9th, once a recipient responded to the emails, then the conspirators responded from these other accounts. Oh, you want to come? Great. Here's a link to the registration page. The embedded link was shortened, and then it would direct one of them to mailerdamon.me. Then they used persona account 7 to cause victim 4 and the others to visit another bad page. Same thing, splash page, fake US login. They logged in their credentials into the fake splash page. Then they got the PDF again. Same thing, August 29th, they use an encrypted messaging application to go to victim 5. They harvest that person's credentials. Same thing happens here. They falsely stated in an email that US victim 1 wanted to attend the conference, and then they defrauded this victim into purchasing a business class ticket for $11,000, but they did not travel on the ticket. All right. Now, continuing through October of 2022, the conspirators used persona account number 8 to communicate with an employee of victim 2 to confirm and to try to obtain other information about actual attendees to the conference. Same thing is happening here, more persona accounts. In November 2022, they used account 9 to email victims 1, 6, 7, and 8. It was another invitation to another UAE embassy. And then they'd go to a login page, another splash page, and they're just fishing for information. Then December and January, they again, more attacks. They got access to a victim 6 email, more encrypted messaging. They claimed they were the employees of a think tank. Again, another persona account number 10. So very similar pattern here. They targeted a bunch of people. So those are the overt acts. Now, on or about May 23rd, they used FDI 117 IP address to attempt to log into a personal email account with a US-based email email provider. The unsuccessful login caused the same US-based email provider to issue a password recovery code to the personal email account, and they got access to it using the code and using FDI 117 IP to do it. Now, on or about June 12th, they obtained a means of authentication to access without authorization a personal email that belonged to victim 11, an official for the Trump campaign, right? Big one. The conspirators used Iranian infrastructure, including FDI 117 IP, to access and maintain access to victim 11's account until or about August 13, 2024. US victim 11's account contained campaign material. They used the personal email account to steal campaign material from Trump, and they emailed communications to victim 14. On or about June 15th, they used victim 10's personal email account to send spear phishing emails to the official of Trump's campaign, and it contained a link that was malicious. The attempt was unsuccessful. Then they used more infrastructure, and they got another personal email account. On or about June of this year, they used actor account 1, we don't know who that is, to create the email, so it's some actor, to send an unsolicited email containing in part an excerpt taken from campaign material that was stolen from victim 11. The email was sent to two personal email accounts that they believed belonged to two different individuals associated with Kamala's campaign. The conspirators' email stated the following: "I'm the one who has access to Trump's campaign." This is the hacker message to Kamala. "But I hate Trump's campaign and strongly don't want to see his second term." This is what the hackers are saying. "So I'm going to pass some materials along to you that would be useful to defeat him. For the first step, below is the final prep of Trump's for the first debate tonight." Wow. "Read and be strong and ready for tonight. And you must know that the first debate is Biden's maybe last chance." So it's Biden. Wow. "If he loses the debate, you, Biden, will have to replace Biden with another candidate." They did. So the hacker was exactly right. The hacker gave Biden a bunch of Trump debate prep material. Biden lost, and they replaced him. So the Iranians know apparently a lot. Now, one recipient email account was invalid. The second recipient email account was a valid personal email of a person associated with Biden's campaign, but the user of that email did not reply to actor's account. On or about June 27th, the conspirators used actor account to send another unsolicited email, forwarding the email described in the prior paragraph to a valid email of another Biden person, which was the same individual they emailed incorrectly the previous time. Same thing, person did not respond. Then the conspirators used actor's account 1, the same email, and they sent another one to a third individual that they thought was associated with Biden. In the unsolicited email, the co-conspirator said, "Mr. Biden's Lemming, I sent below an email the two prior recipients' first names," so Lemming 1, Lemming 2, you're now Lemming 3, "on the morning of the debate day, but it seems that nobody cared and nobody contacted me for more materials. I gave you Trump's literal debate prep and you're not caring about this? I have a lot in my pocket and can be one of your best chances in this rally." The user of these email accounts did not reply. So then between July 20th and July 30th, the conspirators obtained another means of authentication via a two-factor authentication social engineering scheme to obtain without access and without authorization a personal email account with a US-based email provider that belonged to US victim 12. They used infrastructure including FDI 117 IP, and Rick Donner says an FDI IP is an Ethernet IP that is assigned to an individual computer on a network that has multiple stations connected. How do they use that to get into two-factor authentication? And they maintained access to that account on August 13th. Does this allow them to intercept two-factor authentication stuff? On or about June 27th, the conspirators created at least 3 email accounts with the US-based email provider, and then they used those email accounts to distribute the campaign material that was stolen from victim 11 to multiple members of the media to try to get them to publish this. In one instance, the hackers said, quote, "I think this information is worth a good US news publication piece with your narration. Let me know your thoughts." They also used one of the email accounts described in a prior paragraph to send this to reporter number 1. In the text of the email, they tell reporter number 1 that victim 11 had communicated with US victim 14 about reporter 1. They exchanged several emails with the reporter, and this person was, sharing with this reporter private conversations between these two people. Then the conspirators used tools available to another account to translate the contents of emails from Farsi to English and English to Farsi, then gave them to reporter 1. In August 31st of this year, 2024, they created an additional email account with a US-based email provider that used that email account to distribute Trump's material, multiple members of the media. Some of the campaign material distributed from this new email account contained the same vice presidential candidate information that reporter 1 got and other members of of the media got. So that's probably the J.D. Vance dossier. So multiple counts. That was count one. Count two, we have the same stuff being reincorporated here. They say these three rando Iranian dudes who we'll never hear from ever again said that they are computer hacking experts and they're the hacking terrorists. So count three, same thing, wire fraud. They defrauded to obtain money and property, materially false pretenses. These are the victims, a bunch of them. And some of these people are pretty high up. Aggravated identity theft. These guys don't care. Charge them with 100 million different charges. They don't care. They're not coming back to the United States and never going to be here. And they're never going to get caught. Money judgment, substitute assets. Great. Criminal forfeiture. Matthew Graves. Oh gosh. The J6 monster out of the DOJ. All right. So that's happening there. Now, Hillary is explaining that Iran is a big problem, but it might also be China and it might also be other countries like Russia as well.
Brief final question. You liken yourself to Cassandra, the Greek mythological figure who could see the future and the prophecies, was never believed. Putting that Cassandra hat on for the moment, but we're listening. What is something you see happening in the near future that we should be taking more seriously?
Well, I do think that the press that's not supporting Trump blatantly, very persistently, the press that's trying to be the press, be objective, be, reporting the facts, the press needs a consistent narrative about the danger that Trump poses.
There's like 5 people on Fox who are pro-Trump. The rest of them are lukewarm, and everybody else in the media is not in favor of Trump. Unless you go to independent media, then you'll find some rational thought.
Because, people may still look at the danger and say, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I'm going to vote for X, Y, or Z. But okay. But at least people need to be woken up and given the facts about what he has done, is saying, and would do. And I anticipate that, something will happen in October, as it always does. The Russians,
like
as I said earlier, are very active in this election. We know the Iranians are active as well. Chinese uses TikTok, or they certainly did against Biden and for Trump. I think they're a little less pro-Trump right now. So you look at where people get their information, and they get their information largely from social media. And so the campaign is doing the best job it can,
which they want to censor, and they are
that,
censoring.
Combat both domestic and foreign false disinformation. But I anticipate there will be a full court press in October. The digital airwaves will be filled. And why does that matter? Because the press that is pro-Trump anyway, oftentimes stories are put on digitally that then are picked up by, let's say, at Fox and others. And then those stories are stories, so the mainstream press reports on them. And so that story then takes on a life of its own. There will be concerted efforts to distort and pervert Kamala Harris, who she is, what she stands for, what she's done. I mean, look, the crazy story about me running a child trafficking operation out of a basement of a pizzeria, don't laugh.
Yeah, we want to know.
It was a huge story. And it got one young man in North Carolina to get in his car with his, assault rifle and drive up to liberate these non-existent children and shoot up a pizzeria in Washington, D.C. This is dangerous stuff. It starts online, often on the dark web. It migrates. It's picked up by the pro-Trump media. It's then reported on by everybody else, which makes sure it has about 100% coverage. And people believe it. So I don't know what it's going to be, but it will be something, and we'll have to work very, very hard to make sure that it is exposed as the lie that it is.
Yeah, we wouldn't want people to believe fake stories, like the Steele dossier, like Trump is a stooge of Putin. Anything that they literally manufactured out of thin air with Jake Sullivan and the National Security Advisor. They create hoaxes and then blame Trump for them. Did the same thing in 2020, doing the same thing now with Project 2025 and abortion stuff. They just make it up and then they blame the other side. The other side speaks truth, calls them out about their bizarre operations and their money laundering routines, and they don't like it at all. Now, you want to talk about China. The Oversight Committee is sending a letter over into Homeland. They say that Tim Walz might have some pretty close CCP connections that are worth investigating. Says Chairman Comer is now subpoenaing Homeland to investigate Walz's connection to the CCP. The letter looks like this, and it's a good one. From James Comer from Kentucky in the Oversight and Accountability Committee, drafted over to Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas, who's wrecked the border with Kamala, dated September 30th, fresh out of the oven, writes, all right, Alejandro, my name is James Comer. I'm in the Oversight Department, saying during the 118th Congress, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability has conducted wide investigations of how you people are addressing the infiltration and influence campaign to weaken and corrupt the United States by the CCP and Iran and the Russians. Everybody's trying to invade, infiltrate, and corrupt the United States except the 11 million people at the border. They're just migrants. Now, the infiltration and influence tactic, is one facet of a larger Cold War that the CCP utilizes in its unrestricted warfare against America, which the CCP considers its main enemy. Nice. Now, during its briefing with over 20 federal agencies, here's where we get some new information. In its investigation, the Oversight Committee has learned of the emphasis that the CCP has placed on influencing subnational government leaders, including state governors like Walz. Now, along those lines, the Oversight Committee has recently received whistleblower disclosures informing the committee of serious concern among DHS personnel regarding a long-standing connection between the CCP and Tim Walz. Specifically, through whistleblower disclosures, the committee has learned of a non-classified Microsoft Teams group chat among DHS employees that's titled the NST-NFT Biweekly Sync that contains information about Governor Walz that is relevant to the committee's investigation. Uh-oh, just got busted. Now, the committee has also learned that further relevant information regarding Walz has been memorialized in both classified and unclassified documents in control of Homeland. The attached subpoena requires Homeland to produce these documents and communications about Walz's connection to the CCP. This subpoena is issued pursuant to House rules, so give it to us. Now, the committee's investigation of the CCP begun long before Walz was elevated to Kamala's VP support governor. We seek to understand the extent of the CCP infiltration and influence campaign and to identify legislative reforms combat their warfare and their elite capture. In particular, if a state governor and major political party nominee for VP has been a witting or unwitting participant in the CCP efforts to weaken our nation, this would strongly suggest there are alarming weaknesses in the federal government and our effort to defend ourselves against CCP political warfare that must be urgently addressed. Yeah, did Tim Walz get any flight upgrades on his flights to Beijing? We know they indicted Mayor Adams for that. Did Tim Walz get any nice hotel stays over there? Maybe they'll indict him. Along those lines, the committee is currently considering legislative solutions to ameliorate the deficiencies it's already identified as we combat the CCP. The information required by Homeland will inform the committee about how to do this. Please give us our materials. If you have any questions about the subpoena, let us know. Sincerely, your friend, James Comer. So, lot of foreign influence out there. We've got 3 Iranian bros who hack huge swaths of the government, and we'll never see them ever. So that's very convenient for the DOJ and Matthew Graves. We've got Hillary blaming the Chinese, blaming the Russians, and others, but we need to censor people in order to stop their disinformation. And then, of course, we've got Tim Walz, CCP Walz, being investigated by Congress. We're looking forward to continuing to cover these stories and more, my friends. Thank you for subscribing as we do.